Hello, everyone. My name is Patricia Wagner, founder of the Living in Heart-Centered Gratitude private Facebook group, and today is member introductions featuring Liz Butler from the UK. It's, I'm going to read you her bio, which is extensive, but uh, anyway, hello, Liz, to begin with.
Hi, hello.
It's so serendipitous that how we connected, and it's just growing that connection, and I feel very aligned with everything you do. So let me give our audience, our members in our group, a little bit of what you are all about. With a degree in biochemistry and a master's in nutritional medicine, Liz Butler has been a health practitioner for over 25 years. During that time, she worked with people diagnosed with serious illness, particularly cancer, as senior nutritional therapist. Initially, Liz focused her therapeutic work on nutrition, but soon realized the importance of emotional and spiritual healing as priorities in healing. She has added to her therapy offerings emotional freedom technique, which we know as EFT, and matrix re-imprinting. She is a heart meditation facilitator and a heart math certified coach. As a lifelong student of spirituality and metaphysics, her interests are drawn to the perennial wisdom teachings, attaining her higher diploma in theosophy. After completing the coaching program with HeartMath, Liz became greatly interested in the heart and has spent the last decade incorporating heart connection into her healing work. Liz is one of the pioneers of the growing heartfulness movement and is committed to spreading the word on the healing power of the heart to as many people as possible. She is founder of the Awakening Heart Collective, along with three other co-founders. Her website is www.heartsource.co.uk, and the Awakening Heart Collective webpage is heartsource.co.uk/collective. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you so much, Patricia. It is a pleasure to be speaking to you today.
I it is such a pleasure to have you here, and I want to just briefly tell people how you and I connected.
Yes.
Liz actually was featured as one of the features in an email by David Lorimer of the Scientific and Medical Network. Now, I'm a member of that network, and so I get his emails, and I have such a huge respect for David Lorimer. And in it, he featured an announcement that Liz was going to be presenting a free video presentation, hour long or so presentation called Heart, the Center of Everything. Well, I watched that video and I was just very moved by what she had to say. And I will be posting that video underneath this video so that you will have it too. But I wrote her an email and especially pointed out a particular place in her video that she and I just are so aligned with the divine two-step, and as I don't know, she has another name for it, but it was so in alignment with everything that we do. And she wrote back. So we connected on Zoom and it's been growing ever since. So Liz, I'm just so glad you're here. And
Yeah,
if
sorry.
you can tell us more about your healing work and your heart work and the profound, if you could share some profound healings you've witnessed and also some real revealings about the heart that we might not know about. Okay? So I'm going to turn my camera off and just have you present.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to your group, your followers. Um, I mean, I'll go back to the beginning because I think it's important how I came to this work and why I ended up working with the heart. Because as you said, my initial training as a therapist was as a nutritional therapist. And I completed that training in the year 2000 and sort of fell, you could say by accident, but I don't believe there are accidents in life. I fell into working with people with cancer. And strangely, I'd always had a bit of a fear of cancer growing up, and I don't know why. I still don't know why, because as far as I can remember, I didn't know anyone that had cancer, but I did have this deep fear. And I think sometimes we are drawn to the things that scare us. And so I was fascinated to work with people diagnosed with cancer. Um, Partly, I think, because I'd always been interested in the big questions. Even from a young child, I was interested in what happens after we die, what spirit is, and I used to spend a lot of time badgering my mum with these sorts of questions. So I was always interested in the big questions. And so working with people with cancer, they often are facing their mortality. And so it was an opportunity to be with people as they face that and to discuss some of those bigger questions. Now, as a nutritional therapist, obviously, I was focused more on their diet and supporting them with that. But I did often find myself straying into talking about consciousness, spirituality, emotional well-being. And I often found that the people I was working with wanted to talk about these things. So as the years rolled on, I found that nutritional therapy was incredibly supportive for my clients, but that alone only seemed to help to a certain degree. So I widened my horizons in terms of having a more holistic approach to supporting my clients and developed something that I call the 7 elements of healing, which covers nutrition, detoxification, physical activity and movement, rest and relaxation, bioenergetic balance, emotional well-being, and spiritual connection. So I widened the work I was doing to look at all of those areas, but I kept being pulled back to spirituality, and I just felt that that really was the crux of everything in terms of supporting my clients on their healing journey. Some people were more open to that aspect than others, but I found that a lot of people wanted to discuss these issues, and sometimes they didn't. It was difficult for them to find therapists that really were willing and able to really go into the spiritual side of things with them. So I then happened to do the heart math training, and I say happened to because I wasn't particularly thinking about the heart at that time, but I knew about heart math, the Heart Math Institute. I knew how wonderful they are and what incredible research they do. And a friend of mine was doing the training, and I thought, okay, that sounds good. I'll join her on that course. So I did, and was immediately hooked on the power of the heart, the energetic heart, and the fact that our energetic heart has the strongest electromagnetic field that it radiates out of all of our organs. After the training, I started to do a bit of research on the heart. And then after a project that I was working on with a colleague sort of didn't work out the way we hoped. I found myself, and this was around 8 to 10 years ago, I found myself at a bit of a little bit lost in terms of what I was going to do next with my career. And it was around that time that I just felt, well, I'm just going to surrender whatever the universe feels I need to do next. I'm okay with that. And not long after that, I woke up one day and I couldn't tell you where it came from, other than I would say from source, but I just had this deep knowing that I needed to write a book about the heart. And I'd never thought about writing a book before, or maybe I had about nutrition perhaps, but certainly not about the heart. And so I started to write this book. Now, I'm still in the process of writing it. Um, I'm at the stage now of looking for a publisher, but it's taken a long time, and a lot longer perhaps than I imagined it would. But it's been such a powerful journey for me, not only learning about the theory behind the heart, and I tend to talk about the heart in three forms: the physical heart, the energetic heart, and the spiritual heart. And all of those hearts I'm interested in. Of course, they are all one heart ultimately. But I've been on an incredible journey learning about those different forms of the heart, going deep, deep into ancient wisdom, as well as new science. And it's been absolutely fascinating. I have learned so much, and I've loved every moment of it. The most important part of that journey, though, has been not learning the theory about the heart, but actually developing my own practice of heart connection, because really it's only through experiencing the heart that we truly start to understand it. So that's been quite a journey, and throughout that time I've done further trainings. One thing that I've done is to train as a heart meditation facilitator. And so that's a bit of the background. But Patricia, you asked me about healings that I've witnessed. I have seen people recover from really extensive, advanced cancers, and I've seen people heal from those serious illnesses all throughout my career, and it's caused me to reflect often on what it is that allows some people to really find a connection with that life force within them that then brings them to a place of healing. How it is that happens for some people and not for others. Now, I would say that ultimately life is a mystery, and healing therefore is a mystery. And I believe that no matter what an individual does to support themselves, sometimes it's just not their destiny that they are going to recover their physical health at this point. So that's the first thing to say. But beyond that, I have seen, or I've sort of come to conclusions around things that really support people to recover their health when they're very ill. And I think that all of those elements that I mentioned earlier are important. And there are times when I've seen people recover from serious cancer with what seems to be just a change to their nutrition. Or perhaps they may incorporate some exercise, and they may do some detox. And that seems to me to be quite incredible, but I have seen that happen. And sometimes those people have not been doing any conventional treatments, so it's been purely looking after looking at their nutrition and their lifestyle. However, although I think that can be very powerful, what I've come to believe is that more important than what we do with our physical body, it's so much to do with our mindset and our psychological and emotional well-being. And that was one of the reasons I shifted away from nutrition, although I still feel it's incredibly important, is because often I found that people were following a particular diet and they were so caught up in how important the way that they were eating was, that actually it was causing them a lot of stress. And they were coming from a place of fear that if they strayed off this very rigid diet, even for one day, that would cause their cancer to progress. And so I often found that nutrition alone could sometimes be detrimental because of the stress surrounding it. Anyway, so I really do believe that psychological and emotional well-being is a key part of how why some people heal and others don't. But moving beyond that even further, what I truly believe, and have probably believed my whole life, but it's really sort of solidified in the work that I do, is that we come to a place of um, good psychological and emotional well-being when we have a connection to our inner world and a connection to source, if you want to call it that. Some people might say God or life force or universe. And so I, as I said earlier, feel that really that is the crux of it all. And I would say that when people incorporate that aspect into their healing program, that recovery, from what I've seen, seems to be more likely. I've spoken a lot, Patricia, in answer to that question. I don't know if you want to come in and ask me something else, or ask me to elaborate on any of what I've just said.
Oh, I totally agree with what you found in your healing practice,
Mm.
that it does have to do with one's own mindset and heart set, and mainly their direction, their connection with source. It just totally makes a difference. And there is a component of the individual soul journey. I mean, it may be their time to pass, but those whose that's not their journey, they have every capacity to heal, and just need the right environment that they actually are who create it. I mean, we as healers, we can assist in holding that higher vibration for them and connecting, you know, divinely connecting and with them, with source, seeing that that divinity, that perfect divinity within them as we do our healing work. But it's up to them. It's really up
Mm.
to them. Each person has the healing capacity within themselves. No one's
Mm.
doing it for them. They're doing it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I realised I didn't really go into much detail around the heart. So if you want me to do that, then I can sort of tie in my understandings of how we connect with source with the heart, because what I discovered through my research is that the heart is so much more than we are commonly led to believe. Um, and I think that actually we have had the wool pulled over our eyes a little bit over the last few centuries, in fact, as to what the heart truly is. And we've been encouraged to almost worship the brain and the mind, and a logical, analytical way of looking at the world is highly valued, whereas a more intuitive sense of the world has not been so valued, although things are changing now. But so yes, I feel we've had the wool pulled over our eyes a little bit in terms of being encouraged to give our attention to this more logical way of looking at the world, and the importance of the brain and the mind. Whereas what I have discovered is that if you go back into ancient times, it was the heart that was regarded as our most important organ in the body, and seen also as the center of our being. And that's because that's the was the title of my presentation that you mentioned. And so if people want to watch that, then they'll find out a bit more. But the heart, as we know, in language means center. And there's good reason for that. The heart sits at the very center of our energy system. And I believe that the heart's role is to bring to bring opposite sides of any situation into the core of it, and to integrate those things. This is quite a big topic, so people will get more from my presentation. But if we're thinking about the body, for example, and the energy body, we actually have 3 wisdom centers that have been talked about in many different cultures since ancient times. We have our head, we have our hara, as it's sometimes called, or we can think of this as our gut and our reproductive organs. And then in the middle we have the heart. And the head is concerned with, as I said, logical way of thinking and our mind. Our hara is more to do with instinct and body sensation. And if you like, the hara is often associated with the feminine, whereas the head with the masculine, whereas the heart in the very center brings those 2 things together. And what's interesting is that we think of the heart very often as our emotional center, which it certainly is, but it's much more than that. And that's one of the ways that we've had the wool pulled over our eyes, is the heart has been reduced down to something much smaller than it truly is. It's much more than our emotional center, even though it does help to process our emotions. What the ancients understood is that our heart also has an aspect of mind to it, and that our heart is involved in thinking in a way. And if we think about discernment, for example, then discernment is certainly a quality of the heart. And that may have some emotions involved in it, but it also has an element of logic and thinking. So the heart, it incorporates some of the mind, and it also incorporates some of the body, because instinct and intuition is also associated with the heart as well as the body. And so the heart overlaps, in a way, the head and the hara, and it brings those 2 aspects of wisdom into itself and deepens them. So that's one thing I wanted to say about the heart. But then the other thing that really comes out when you start to delve into ancient understanding of the heart and the deep wisdom around the heart. And you can find this talked about in any religion. If you go back to the origins of any religion, because so many of our religions have been slightly, the messages have been slightly distorted over the centuries. But if you go back to the true origins of each religion, then you find the heart talked about in the same way. And it's always talked about as, again, the center, the core of who we are, and the place where we can connect to source. Some religions will talk about God actually residing in the heart, our heart being home to God. Or else they talk about the meeting place, the place where we meet God. So coming back to the question of healing, I have really come to believe that in order to heal, and that's not necessarily always about physical healing, it might be about emotional healing. It might be about healing relationships with others. It might be about healing our relationship to the earth. There's all sorts of different types of healing. But what I've come to believe is that no matter what sort of healing we're looking for, we will find that by coming into our hearts. And when we do that, and when we practice getting into the quiet, peaceful, um, uh, the words the words got out of my mouth, sanctuary of the heart, sorry, I forgot that word for a moment, then we can go into that place, spend quiet time there, and we can connect to source. And when we do that, we can be guided, because source will communicate with us, and we can be guided on the right path for us on our healing journey. And so now when I'm working with clients, I incorporate the heart as the primary element when I'm working with people, because I think it's through going into the heart, connecting to source, that we find the path that's right for us. So hopefully that's given a bit more of an insight as to my feelings around the heart and how I work with it.
I totally agree with you about the heart. In fact, our community's motto is we are creating heaven on earth by living in heart-centered gratitude. And yes, and that absolutely can be one of the best ways to connect with Source. So, and each other. Yeah.
There's something I'd like to add, if you don't mind, Patricia, just to go into what you've just said, because you've talked about you and I being very aligned. And when I watched your TED talk, I just thought, oh my goodness, we are absolutely coming from the same page, because as well as the heart being the center of our being, it's also our creation point. It's where we create from. And like you talk about in your talk and your two doors vision, I'm absolutely on board with that. And I didn't have a vision in the same way that you did, but I would say about 15 years ago, something happened, and I think it was a time when I was struggling a little bit with not feeling like I was living in the right place or doing the job that fulfilled me. But anyway, it was around that time that I had a bit of an awakening, a bit of an epiphany, and realized that we have a choice always in any scenario that we're in, and we can choose to struggle against whatever's challenging us, or we can surrender. And just as I say that, my whole body relaxes. We can surrender and we can trust, and we can trust in the beauty of life. And this is where the gratitude comes that you talk about. And when we do that, in my experience and from witnessing my clients and other people I know, when we do that, when we surrender in gratitude, then things just work out. And sometimes it doesn't work out exactly how we had imagined, but it always works out to the best. Because sometimes we can't know with our limited minds what is best for us. But when we trust that the universe knows and we surrender to that, feeling gratitude in our hearts, then always it works out perfectly. And that really fits, I think, with what you're saying. And I feel that the heart is central to that. gratitude, compassion, love are all qualities of the heart. And so by coming into the heart center and feeling those energies and surrendering to source, that I think is the path that brings us heaven on earth, as you talk about.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for this sharing. Before we leave, I want to ask you a couple more questions.
Yeah,
Do
please
you
do.
have any events coming up that you might want to share with us so that our members might be able to join you?
Oh, well, thank you for that opportunity. So you mentioned at the beginning that I founded, along with three colleagues, the Awakening Heart Collective. And our idea really is just to spread knowledge about the heart. As I said, there's information about the heart has been hidden away almost. You could say to sort of keep us small and to not realize our true power, because if we were all to understand the true power of the heart and our capabilities when we're connected to the heart and to source, then we wouldn't be nearly so easy to control as a population. So we want to now spread the message of the heart, and it is a message that's really absolutely aligned with yours. And so we have regular events, and they're online events, so anyone can join. And I know if people are watching from different parts of the world, sometimes the time zones can be an issue, but we record everything. And so people will always get a recording. And we have all sorts of different speakers on the heart. Sometimes we are talking about the physical heart and how to look after the physical heart. Sometimes we're talking about the energy system of the body and the energetic heart. And often we're talking about the spiritual heart as well. We have our next event coming up on the 14th of April, which is going to be really interesting. It's a man called Thornton Streeter, Dr. Thornton Streeter, who's done a lot of research on the energetic system, what was sometimes called the biofield, and he's developed something called the biofield viewer that can actually look at our energy system, and from that he can interpret what's going on in our system. So that's coming up. And then I guess what would be nice to share with your audience is that I have what's called the Heartful Living Program, which looks at the three forms of the heart: physical, energetic, and spiritual, and goes into depth on each of those, advice or giving information on how we can care and nurture that aspect of the heart, but also how we can come into alignment with our hearts and come into what's called a coherent heart state, and transform our lives in the process. So the program is divided into three parts, and on the 29th of April, so in about a month's time, I'm beginning the nurturing the energetic heart. So it will be all about the energetic heart, and it will look at how the energetic heart works and how we can support it through light and colour and drinking the right water and foods we eat and our emotional state. So there'll be a great deal of information in that course. It's for 8 weeks and it begins on the 29th. So people can check that out and, of course, contact me with any questions.
Sounds wonderful, wonderful. And I think the website for them to access that is your
Yes, so
heartsource.co.uk/collective, or just
So, for the heartful living program, it would actually be heart sauce, which is sauce as in sauce, not tomato sauce. So it's heartsource.co.uk, and then um, all the information they can find from the homepage. So that's probably the place to start.
the place to go. Well, thank
Yeah.
you for that, Liz. And if someone wanted to get in touch with you, would they just go to that website?
Yes, that's
Okay.
probably the best way, because from there they can go to the contact page and
Okay.
then contact me that way.
And if
Yes.
they want to see more videos that you have produced, they would go to your YouTube channel, which is
Yes. So the YouTube channel, I think it's a little tricky at the moment because the Awakening Heart Collective is very young. It hasn't got its own website yet. So we're sort of basing it. We've got a page on the Heart Source website, which you mentioned earlier, is heartsource.co.uk/collective. Now, from that page, there's information about the event that I mentioned that's coming up. Also, there's links to past events and recordings, and that will take people to the YouTube channel.
excellent. Excellent.
Okay.
Oh, this has been so wonderful to learn more about you, your work, and the powerful work you're doing in the world, and the Awakening Heart Collective as well. So all of it is just marvelous to be
Thank
part of this
you.
heart awakening and uh, paradigm shifting work that we're doing.
Yes.
So thank you,
Yeah.
Liz. Thank you so much, and thank you for being a member of our group. I know we'll have more conversations.
Yeah, I'm really excited to connect more with you, and I hope we'll do more work and collaborations together as time goes on. But very much looking forward to being part of this group and connecting with your other members. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for inviting me today because it's been a real pleasure to speak to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I know that there's a time difference in our, because you're in the UK, but we do have, and I know I've mentioned this to you, that we have the Epiphanies and also the Heart Math events at the first Thursday and the last Thursday of the month, both of which, uh, when the timing is right for the pre-recording and it fits your schedule, we hope
Yes,
that you will join. Okay.
yes, I will, and I look forward to it. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so much, Liz. We appreciate you.
Pleasure,
And
pleasure. Thank
thank
you.
you to our members who just keep this whole community thriving. So thank you, Liz. And bye for now.